Welcome to our next guest with Donna and Sandrine. I'm Sandrine.
And I'm Donna.
So our next guest, just to give you a quick intro about it, because it's quite new, and for some of you, you already watched like the first episode. It's where we bring the real stories of the people behind the titles. You can expect our guests to be coming from all kind of industries, from business to academia, and everything in between. We uncover the moments, mindsets, and missteps that earn them their stripes. In each episode, we invite people from our network, some that wanted to be here, or someone we got introduced to, or someone we forced to. Just kidding. Someone we admire, someone with a story worth hearing and sharing. And today's guest, we are really pleased, is Cécile Lasota. Thank you, Cécile, for being here.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me. I was not forced.
Cécile, we're so excited to have you here. You are such a gem to have on this show, and I feel like there's so much that we can all learn from you. But let me just take a quick moment to introduce you because you have such an impressive background. We are fortunate that we know you personally, so we've been able to learn from your experiences already in the past. But just for the people listening, you are a seasoned luxury marketing leader, I would say, right? You have a beautiful career that spanned throughout various industries. You're currently the head of marketing for Germany and Austria for Diptyque, one of my favorite brands. I have so many candles here at home. I can't even explain.
And you should try the perfumes.
And you bring it. Yeah. I have the perfumes too. I have so many different sets. We can talk about it later maybe. But you bring a deep experience from your time at LVMH. You've also been at Zalando. And you've driven a wave of innovations in experiential marketing, and you've been also leading retailtainment initiatives that are reshaping how we engage with luxury consumers throughout immersive brand experiences. So we are super happy to have you here. And yeah, let's get this show on the road and let's get started. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So, Cécile, before we start, we have usually like one of those questions that we love to ask our guests is, what is your favorite song? Whenever you have a meeting or you have to go on stage, that is like bringing joy, power, and energy in you. Is there like a song where you're like, oh my God, this is so upbeat. I have it. Now I want to go. And I'm on fire.
Tough question. I don't really have a favorite song, and I really go, for any kind of sounds possible. So I don't really have, one precise style. I have to say that to be more dynamic, I will go generally more for pop music, and sometimes very cheesy. So that can go there. But if I would have to find something very precise, maybe it would be Queen, Don't Stop Me Now. Oh. Because I kind of like, it starts very slow, kind of like a bit of a teasing, and then suddenly it's bam, and then you just want to rush and, run and dance, and so it's quite energetic.
Stop me now. For you.
So good.
Thank you.
Yes, I already hear it. Energetic. I have a few questions actually for you because I want to talk to you about your travels and your experience around the globe. But maybe you can just give us a little bit of background. What is your background? Like, you're French?
Yes. I am French. So I grew up in a very small town in the south of France with French parents. And my grandparents from my father's side were Polish, which is something that we never really talk at home. But for me, it was, a nice nugget. So when I was a child, I loved to say I'm half French, half Polish, because I found it more interesting than just being French, which put my dad a bit like aside. He was like, why? Because he never really felt Polish, even if his parents were. So I think it was, for me already maybe, like being very internationally attracted. And there is a myth story that my aunt loved to tell. I'm not sure if it's true, to be honest with you, but I think it's a very cool story. She used to say that when I was something like 3 or 4, I told her one day that I really wanted to speak many languages when I would grow up so that I could have many friends. And I think it's a beautiful story. I really don't know where it come from because my parents were not really international. We did not really travel much. But I really felt something in me that, I wanted to go out there to meet new people, new culture, discover something new.
There was a sense of calling, yeah. I can see like you're saying, like maybe your parents, they felt like, oh my God, this is odd. Like she's pretending like to be someone, although it was part of your ancestry. But you were already like, in your mindset, basically you were this explorer or this
Yes.
adventurer.
Yeah.
You wanted to travel the world. And I guess that Donna and myself, we are curious because you traveled actually quite a lot and you had unusual also like experiences. Tell us more about that.
Yes, so travel is really, like my passion, and I really feel alive, when I discover something new in a new culture. And the more local, the more authentic, the better. So you see these travel pictures with a big smile, I have on my face because I feel, something is happening. But the most experience regarding like new culture was really when I was in China. So I lived 5 years in Beijing. And that was really like, going deep into like a culture and not just for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. So how did you, because wait, you're French, but
Yes.
you've also lived in Germany, right?
Correct. And I'm also
And
currently
there
living in
you
Germany.
already have this cultural difference between the French and the Germans.
Correct.
So how many different countries have you lived in altogether?
So it's been 4. So I was lucky during my study. So I study actually like it was 3 years, 3 countries. So then I study in France, I study in the UK, and I study in Germany. So that was the first time when I could really, live abroad and also learn languages because you would have met me before. My English would not have been great and my German even worse. So that was already, during the study when I was a bit more, like, okay, I'm a bit more in charge of where I can go. And after that, it was always, okay, I still want to continue. So every time someone is asking me, okay, where do you want to live? I cannot answer this question because I think there is, always something positive and something negative in every country. So currently I live in Germany. I used to live in China and I don't know what will be next.
Wow.
Yeah. And as we could see, or as I can see, like you have like this Asian statue behind you. So I would be really curious to know, like, because as Donna said, you used to live in different countries in Germany, and I remember when I met you, you were already learning Mandarin. You were already, I don't know, manifesting this dream or this wish to live in China. Could you tell us more about the process? Who, or how did the seed got planted in your
I
mind?
think
in your head?
it's a quite a long story. I try to make it short, but basically, when I was studying, after like my A level, I got to study a bit more about Japan. So I need to go from Japan to go to China. So I started to Japan, and I literally fell in love with Japan because I found for me it was really a wow effect. It was something really different that I was not picturing before. So I was really like, oh, they think differently. This is different. So I was really attracted by that. And I was always saying, one day I will live in Japan. And I was very bad in German. So when I started, to study in business school, I wanted to give up German and I wanted to focus on Japanese. So I started to learn Japanese. Eventually, I met my husband, who is half German, half French. So then the German came back. And I was like, okay, maybe German would be more useful than Japanese. So I had to refocus on that. And we studied together. So we studied in these 3 countries together. So we had really, this love for different cultures. This is really something that we have in common. So after we graduated, we started to work in France. But we knew that after a couple of years, we wanted to go somewhere else. So basically we were very, rational, and we were like, okay, let's see which one in our company, will be sent abroad, the first. And in my unlucky or lucky, time, I got promoted, but in France. And then I was like, okay, that was a dream job. So I was super happy to take it, but I was like, yeah, I cannot tell my company I want to live abroad. So then I was like, okay, I take the job. It's going to be amazing. I love that job. And then I told my husband, I said, okay, this is going to be you. You have to find something if we want to get out of Paris one day.
No pressure.
Yeah. And eventually, he was contacted by someone from a Chinese subsidiary. So, and he was already, having some kind of interview process. At the end, it did not work out, but it kind of like planted the seed, of China. And when he told me China, at first I was like, no, Japan. And I was already checking, like a Shanghai, Tokyo, it's only 2-hour flight. So I can go there every weekend. And he was like, you're completely nuts. But this is how, the first seed kind of like, okay, Asia. And eventually we did not manage to go to China. At first we managed to go to Germany. So then we're like, okay, let's go to Germany. This is the first steps, out. And we studied in Berlin. So we knew the city. So it was fine. But it was in our head. And basically we were already thinking, okay, the next move is going to be China. Then we put China on the map because we knew that professionally speaking, China would be easier than Japan. And that's why basically my husband, after a couple of years, managed to work actually for the Chinese market, but from Germany. So we were getting closer and closer. So it took us about 6 years to finally, end up there. And that's why when I met Sandrine, I was already taking some classes, not very intensely, but just to put, some kind of like, first, background, first fundamentals of the language. It was very basics, but still it was a way also to kind of like, okay, understand a bit more the country, because I think you understand the culture a lot via the language. So that's why I was already starting a bit there. And from Japan and China, that's very two different cultures, and this is two different worlds.
Totally.
So I really had, my first impression of China was from a Japanese eye almost, which was not necessarily very positive. So I had to really kind of like open up and say, oh, but that's actually amazing. It's completely different, but that's amazingly different.
Yeah. Nice. That is such a nice story. That is so nice. You sort of manifested it.
Yes. I mean, prepare for it.
Yes. That's already a tip number 1. If you want something to happen, manifest it. Can actually happen.
Yes. And, my grandmother used to say that. She used to always say, nothing happened by chance.
No.
So, and yeah, I think you have to be able to seize the opportunity when you see it.
And from this sorry.
No, go ahead.
And from this visioning exercise, as we are saying, so you got the vision. Obviously, you said, okay, it was Japan. And there is so much fascination. I think it could be part of like another a session. But from the visioning part, then you put like the little step in the right direction. And obviously, then you made the move. So how did it go? Like the first, I'm sorry, being really curious, and maybe then we can go back to before. But how did you embrace the immersion from you living in Europe, living in different countries in Europe to, okay, now it's Asia, and it's not only Asia, it's China. It's so specific.
I think it's just, this attraction for diversity. So, and for discovery, something new. So, and maybe I get bored quite quickly. So that's why, I have the urge, to discover something new. And that's why basically, when my husband got so yeah, I'm trying to be very independent, but I'm following my husband. So, so even we take the decision together. But basically, yeah, when we were discussing about China and when he told me, hey, I have this opportunity to go there. He works for Volkswagen, and Volkswagen is an amazing company when it goes to expats. So it's very well organized. And you have this 1 week. So you can discover, basically, before confirming completely that you go there, you have a 1 week discovery. So it's a 1 week trek where you go to the city and you have someone showing you actually the hospital, the school if you have kids, the supermarket. So a bit, and also flats where you could live basically. So
Right.
it kind of like give you this, like immersion for a week, so you can, okay, yes, I can live there. And it was the first time I was in China. I never traveled to China before. So my husband was
Wow.
taking a bit of that risk and he was really thinking, okay, I'm going to make her discover this place, because I know she will like it. So he kind of like, tailored a bit the trip, but he know me well. And he was like, okay, I'm sure you're going to like it. And it's interesting because when you go to know that or to kind of like identify if you want to live there, it's not like a travel. You go to a supermarket and you're kind of like very focused. Can I find, I don't know, my shower gel, my, like feminine products. So you're very, tailored, like what is important in life. So you have to go back to basics, what am I, using on a daily life, that I would like to find, and I'm not sure I will be able to find. So you're very focused. And at the end of that week, it was so energizing, and Beijing is such an energetic city. I was like, okay, let's go for it. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be crazy, but it's going to be fun.
I love the whole adventure immersion. I love it. It's really great. So when you were in China, and I mean, where in China were you? I
Beijing.
mean, that country is so big. Oh, in Beijing.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah,
The
okay,
real
okay, okay.
China, like we like to say.
The real China.
Yeah, because if you
When you
go to Shanghai, sorry to do these distinctions, but in Shanghai is so modern. It's a bit like New York. Just we have Chinese on the streets, but people speak quite well English. If you go to Beijing is where you have the government. It's also where you have the Forbidden City, so the culture is very rich. But it means that it's more Chinese than being in Shanghai. That's why I like to do the distinctions.
All right. Okay. Well, good that you're doing that because I've never been. I'm planning a trip to China. I don't know when I'm going to go, if it's going to be this year or next year, but I guess I'm jumping on the China hype train. Everything it seems to be around China, and from a marketing perspective and from a business perspective. I mean, there's so much going on that I've read so much, but I want to go and experience. But that said, when you got there, how did you feel? How were you welcomed?
So I think it was, it's like everything I do. And I think, we say that a lot when you start a new job. We generally say that you need 3 months, kind of like in order to feel integrate yourself, to kind of like run. And for me, it's the same. So going to a new country is also this 3 months, kind of process. So first of all, when I arrived, I felt very welcomed. For 2 things. The first thing is when you're an expat, the expat community is generally very welcoming, especially in a country which is so different. So you kind of have a network already, that can, accompany you. And the second thing is Chinese people are extremely curious. So they see someone, different on the street and they come and talk to you. So when you don't speak the language, you cannot really interact. And that's why for me it was important to learn the language, because at one point you can interact with them. And it's such, like lovely interactions you can have. And they're very direct in their question. So it's kind of like, where are you from? Are you married? Do you have kids? How much do you earn? So you can get sometimes this kind of question when you're like, hold on a second. So you feel already very welcome, in that perspective. So for that part, it's really nice. Then you have the 3 months process where for me it was kind of like trying to find myself and a bit of what do I want to do? Because basically I quit my job in Europe to go to China. So, and I'm a bit of a workaholic. I mean, I like to work. And then it was a bit like, what am I going to do? So my first thinking was, I need to find a job straight away. And then I started to look a bit on LinkedIn, some job offers. And every time I saw, Mandarin fluent. And then I was like, damn it. So it put me completely down because I knew that even if I started to learn Mandarin, I will never be fluent, in a short time. So I was a bit like, okay, what am I going to do? And at one point I was like, okay, stop. You need to learn to be more patient. And that was also something I wanted to learn. And I was like, let's do a reset. So then I put in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to do at least 1 year break. So I don't have a time pressure. And then I'm going to reset completely. So I was taking Chinese classes from Monday to Friday, 4 hours a day, which for some people sounds more like a job actually, because it's quite demanding when you have private lessons from Monday to Friday, 4 days. And I did that at the end 1 year and a half. So yeah, I'm a bit crazy. And then it was kind of like also trying to find my storytelling. So I love to say that because everything is a matter of storytelling. And when I arrived, I got always this question: where are you? What are you doing here? I became to really hate that question at first, because the first answer was, I'm here because I follow my boyfriend, because we were not married at that time. And it felt for me extremely bad, because I'm like, I follow my boyfriend. So it's like, I follow. So for my independent me, it was like, oh, no. And boyfriend, it sounded a bit like, okay, I'm so opportunistic that I just found a rich guy, and I wanted to follow him. So this, I really didn't like it. So I was like, okay, I have to find something else. Then I found, okay, I'm studying Chinese. So maybe I can just say, I study Chinese. But then I got some look like, she's a bit old to be a student. That was also not a good one. So then I was still thinking, and at one point I realized that, and this is really some kind of mindset shift in my head, was I just want to do a break. I'm actually on a sabbatical. I don't have to look for a job. So I can just take the time, discover the country, discover the culture, maybe also reset. Maybe I want to do something completely different. So then my new story was, I'm on a sabbatical. And when you start to say, I'm on a sabbatical, first of all, it was I and not following someone. So it was just my story.
Yeah.
Sabbatical as a sense of freedom, which matters for me. And then the look on people's eyes completely changed. And then I was like, here it is. I'm on a sabbatical. And that kind of like story that I was saying to people, that I was saying to myself, really helped me actually to thrive, because from that moment onwards, I was not only studying Chinese in the morning, but in the afternoon, I did a career coaching because I wanted, to reset and see, maybe I want to become an archaeologist. Maybe marketing is not my thing. Okay, at the end, it is my thing. But, kind of like trying to completely open up everything. And then I started freelancing, I started volunteering. So then I was a lot using my time until a point where after 1 year and a half, almost 2 years, I was like, I need even more and I need to go back to work because it's not enough. And then I found a job.
And then, sorry, like to intrude in your story, I found this like really fascinating. And I totally agree with you, because I've been also in China, that like Beijing and Shanghai are totally different cities, different mindset, different vibes. Even the expats community, they are like super different. I can also relate to the fact, living in Asia, that you feel like family when you come to expat community. And I feel you, or I can relate to the fact that when you follow your partner, because I met a lot of women along the way, expats in Asia, that follow their husband, that follow their partner, that they are sort of like losing their sense of identity at some point, or that they are feeling like, oh, I need to grieve something. And it's like, if they go to motherhood, then they have like another purpose, they have another mission, they have another meaning. If they are just getting busy like with discovery, then okay, there is like another meaning in life. But as you're saying, you wanted to do something, you wanted like beyond being, you wanted also like to do something, and something you felt aligned with. And I felt also that like the look of the people also was, it was not like you fearing the judgment of people, but there was for you like a signal or an indication. Is that really my story? Is that really what I want to tell? Am I owning my story now? And that at some point you felt grounded, like, okay, every pieces of my life now are coming together. So super interesting. And then you said moving, sorry, Donna, moving.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, moving to work. Donna, go ahead.
Yeah, I like it because it's this, it's your marketing. You worked on your own marketing, basically.
True.
right? You gave yourself you worked on your branding and marketing. Like, this is what I need, so this is what I have to create. I like it.
Yes, and you know, honestly, I breathe marketing, and that's what was really interesting, you know, to do this reset, you know, with this career coaching, because I was really exploring, you know, going quite broad, and my coach was really clever because I started, you know, to say something, and she was always, you know, taking on it. Like, for example, she had she had a website, and we all work at Zalando. So obviously I have this, you know, e-commerce perspective, and I look at her website, and one day I told her, I say, you know, your website is not really good. I mean, the navigation, the user experience, and she was like, do you want to help me? I was like, sure. And I started to have guidelines for her. And then at one point she was like, do you want to try to do my website? And I was like, I would love to. So I started to actually create a website. So I was basically building a website, and she really liked the process. So eventually she presented me to other coach. And at one point I started to coach coaches from a business perspective. So it was really funny because I was meeting a lot of coaches and freelancing for them, because coaches are really good actually into this interaction with people. But when it comes to business, they're not always trained actually in management, or in marketing. So basically I was starting to help them to how to identify their target audience, how to basically market their offer, how to communicate about their offer. Good. So I started to do that, you know, and this is where then my coach was telling me, well, I think there is something here. and that's where I was kind of like, yeah, you're right. I will not become an archaeologist. Actually, I'm a real marketer. So it's really coming back.
But tell me, so how easy was it then to navigate this whole new business environment? Because of course, and maybe when we talk about China and people from China that are watching, or Chinese people with a Chinese background, forgive us, because we're going to touch on, I think, quite a lot of stereotypical things. Okay. Because we are learning so much about how cool China is and how many cool things are happening. And, you know, somehow I think maybe we had a wrong image, or we've been given the wrong stories. I don't know. But since you were there for quite some years, we could ask you all these questions. So how easy was it for you to navigate this whole business environment?
So I think a lot of
all these different local customs, you know.
I think you're right when you say that a lot of things we hear here are not true. So it's very stereotypical, and you know, I don't want to go into politics, but you know how the media are. They like to drive on polemics, you know, so they don't really speak about what's positive. And China is a continent, so it's actually very big. So actually the first thing for me was, in order to find a job, it's in China, guanxi, which means relationship, network. It's very important. Actually, I think nowadays, everywhere in the world, it's important. So you need to know someone, because all the job offers are not necessarily, you know, published. So that was for me, you know, talking with friends, being very, you know, open to what I was looking for. And I was very, you know, concrete in what I wanted. So, because if friends, you know, want to help you, they need to know what you want. If you are a bit like, I'm looking for, and it's, you know, like wishy-washy, then it won't work, basically. And since I work in the past, always in a company, I was like, I want to work in an agency. So I was like, I want to, you know, go there. I want to work in an agency. I want to go more always marketing, but still more in agency, consulting agency or creative agency was kind of like my my direction. Someone told me once that it was extremely narrow and I will never manage. And I was like, I don't care, I'm going to start first, because she was already asking, what's your plan B? And I was like, you know what? I start first with my plan A. If my plan A doesn't work, maybe I can move to plan B, but let's start first with plan A. I will never know if it would not working if I'm not trying. So, and actually it worked. And then, you know, speaking with friends, families, or my husband speaking with colleagues. And eventually at one dinner, one guy told me, you should contact that guy. He's always looking for someone. And yeah, I contacted the guy the next day, went to the interview process, and basically got hired. So it was kind of a lucky. I had another job also coming from a friend. So a friend who knew someone that were looking for someone. The other job I said no because I was terrified by the other one. So basically I was like, okay, there is
Why?
one where I really feel. It's actually I was terrified because you know, when I got the job offer, so first of all, the interview I had with the person would have been my manager, was very, you know, robotic. I did not really. I mean, the CEO of the company was amazing, but my direct manager was very, you know. I don't know, I didn't click. And I think after, you know, many years of work, you kind of know what you're looking for. And for me, the culture, the management style of my manager is very important. And basically, when I got the job, the guy did not call me. He basically wrote me, you know, a text message. And the text message was, "You got the job, HR will contact you."
Oh, like a chatbot spam.
And I was like, okay, no, congratulations. I'm happy to work with you soon, or, you know, something a bit.
Looking forward.
Exactly, you know, something a bit like, yeah, I'm happy. So, yeah, so I was kind of like, ugh. So something felt odd. It took me a couple of days to realize that, yeah, it was not the right fit, and that I had to look further. And luckily, eventually, a couple of weeks later, the job that I got happened. So it was also for me to kind of say, okay, I have nothing, but I'm going to say no for that job. And I continued to look for it.
And then when you got this job, and thanks a lot for sharing like this journey. It sounds fascinating. And yes, okay, like maybe like the approach of this one personality was not pretty empathetic. But when you got on the job, I'm really curious to know like what were maybe the project you felt like the most enthusiastic about, or you were like, oh my God, this is so different of what I used to do in Europe. Is there anything?
Yeah, well, one of the first projects I had to work for was actually to create a concept for a PR event for the new autonomous driving car of Audi. So when you think about autonomous car, you know, for me in Europe, I heard briefly about it, but it was kind of like far away. And here it was, no, the car is driving autonomously. It's working.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is a test phase, obviously, but still, it's working. And I had to create a concept, obviously, with my team. But we had to create a concept for this PR event. So that was already kind of like super exciting and a bit crazy at the same time. Because you're like, okay, Beijing is already extremely advanced technologically speaking. So China is very advanced technologically speaking. And working on the technology of the future, which for me would be the technology of the future. But then you learn, no, it's not the future. It's the present. I mean, it's tomorrow. It's happening.
Yeah.
That was really exciting.
Oh, and sorry, like to jump on that note. So you're working on such a top-notch product, so innovative. So I mean, technologically, it's super driven, super advanced. In terms of marketing, how does that look like? Do you have also the pressure to be as excellent or as perfectionist as the product, and what's new or what's different in their approach versus Europe, for instance?
I think it's at the same time extremely similar and on the other hand a bit different. So I think if you think of marketing, the concept, you know, like the rules or the guidelines that we know are the same. Basically, it's know your audience. And that's really the base. I mean, you need to know your audience, whereas it's journalists or it's end consumers. When you know them, then you can target them in such a way. So that really starts with this. And I think when we always say, oh, marketing is different if you go to China, if you go to Germany or France, no, the principles are always the same. The answers are different. But the principles are the same. Then when you go to the answers, what you learn a lot in China is that people are extremely technology and innovation savvy, and they're not afraid So they really jump on it. So for example, if we continue on autonomous driving, if you ask Europeans about autonomous driving, the first thing that pops up is fear. If you ask Chinese, the first thing is, I want to try it. And that's very
nice one.
different. So, and that's why when you ask who is the most innovative country in the world, which I don't like because it's superlative, but it's a different perspective. Do we mean innovation in terms of what is produced, or do we mean innovation in terms of mindset? And this innovation mindset that the Chinese have, it's actually a driving force to everything that they are doing.
Yeah.
And how is it translated in brand experience, in the brand experience or strategy, marketing strategy that you offer or that you were developing for them?
So you can be more daring. So first of all, technology has to be embedded. So we created, AR or VR experiences, for example. So this kind of melting, offline and online together. So that's something that has to be together. QR code, where something already in 2018, when I arrived, QR codes were everywhere. In Europe, we were completely out of QR codes back in the days. I mean, QR codes went thanks to COVID in Europe, but the magical technology behind it was not really perceived in Europe yet. So this offline, online, this kind of like omni-channel, it's something that I think is already kind of intrinsic. Because people are really like this. I mean, in China, you can walk naked on the street as long as you have your phone, you're okay. You need your phone. So if you lose your phone, you're lost. But with your phone, you can do everything. So you can basically not only order your food, but you can unlock your bike. You're going to pay. I mean, I never used cash when I was living there. At the same time, you're in the same app. You can chat with friends. You go to a restaurant, you're going to split the bill also in the same ecosystem. So it's everything happening in one super app, which is very convenient and fast.
I so want to go experience that. Because this is like all the stories and all the reports that I've been reading, right? It's everything. And I guess also that's why in Europe, so many companies are looking towards China, like, why are they so far ahead? But it's exactly like you said, that mindset of fear versus let's try it brings me to, and we'll get back to China, but it immediately brings me to, so now you're back in a European environment. How do you go back from, risk averse to let's just do it? Let's, trial and error. How do you get back to that?
It's tough. It's honestly tough. I discovered something that I was not at all having on the radar, which is reverse cultural shock.
Yeah.
If you go to a country like China, you prepare yourself. You know it's going to be a cultural shock. That's why you're prepared mentally. When you come back, you have the feeling you know it. But you changed in 5 years. So when you come back, actually, you changed a lot. And this reverse cultural shock is something that we should speak more about, actually. Yeah. So for me, I would say it took me maybe 1 year, actually, to recover. I'm still nostalgic after 3 years being back, in Germany. I'm still nostalgic about that. I generally say that I'm coming from the future. When people ask me where you come from, I say from the future. China is also 6 or 7 hours, ahead of us. so it's actually technically true. But it's true that in Germany, I have the feeling, or generally in Europe, that a lot of things are not working. And I'm really, like when Wi-Fi suddenly in the subway doesn't work, and I'm like, okay, I'm in a third world country now. So
I can imagine it must be such a culture shock. I mean, I'm just thinking back to, whenever there was something from, and Sandrine, as well, right? Whenever there is some kind of, let's keep it simple, a campaign that we need to do. Gosh, the months that can go by talking about it, adjusting and tweaking the little things versus, let's just do it. I mean, no wonder that TikTok is taking off like crazy because, it's showing us what can be done. Just do. Don't talk about it.
Yeah, and the process
that must
also,
indeed be a culture shock.
The process of doing things is you don't have so much planning in China. So it's kind of like you have a rough frame and then you start. And then while you
Yeah.
are starting, you cross correct, actually. So it's continuously
Yeah.
cross correct, which you need to be very, like flexible and deal with uncertainty as your daily business.
Yeah.
But that's something that is, when you lack, the speed of things, it's like, everything is MVP. At one point it works, however, very well.
Is that something that you, just to build on that a little, is that something that you can bring back here? I mean, do you see that, you can maybe use some elements in how you currently work, or is it not possible because the entire system is not built to support that way of thinking?
I think to one extent, you can still bring it up. It has to be measured, like not completely free and crazy, because otherwise you are the crazy in the room. But that's something that you can still bring up. I mean, in my current job, I'm organizing events, for example. And there is always something happening. If it's the weather, which is not great, and then you have to bring back everything inside. Or last year, for example, we were doing a collaboration with a cafe. 10 days before the start of the collaboration, the cafe dropped out. So basically we had no cafe anymore. And then it's a question, okay, what do you do? And I remember my team was a bit like, Cécile, the cafe just canceled the collaboration. What are we going to do? And I was like, we're going to find a new cafe. And I said, don't worry, we're going to bring all the resources. Okay. And we wanted to do something in Munich, and we are based in Berlin. So which was a bit more challenging. They were like, okay, who do we know in Munich? What is in our network? What can we do? Okay, let's put everyone together. We have 2 days to kind of look for something else, and then we're going to make it. And at the end, the cafe we found out was even better. And the collaboration was amazing, and it lasted for 2 weeks, and it was amazing 2 weeks. So I think this mindset of let's not give up. Let's say, okay, we can still make it happen. And still, have this flexibility in the plans. I think that's probably something that I can bring back in Europe. Then in terms of ecosystem, the digitalization, especially in Germany, when you have this fear of data collection, then we have to be very mindful about that.
And I like your approach in terms of mindset because, I used to study also in Asia and work there. Did you feel also that, I mean, obviously like this sense of flexibility, agility, this is something that now you're bringing even more on the table. And I know from our experience together that you had that. But also in terms of philosophy or Asian or Chinese philosophy, is there anything that you learned by living there? And you experienced COVID also there.
Yes.
Is there anything you're like, okay, go with the flow, everything happened for a reason? I don't know. I don't want to go cheesy, but this, I feel a sense of serenity, like while you're talking about this.
I think there is probably 2 things that I learned, or one thing that I really learned, one thing I'm still trying to learn. So one thing that I learned is really how relationship matters. So in China, if you want to do business, you need to know the person personally. And that's extremely important. That's why people, will go drinking and get drunk together. So it's kind of like creating bond. And I remember when I started to work, I had one amazing Chinese colleague, and I was kind of scared of her at first because I found her very impressive. And she was very cold. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to work with this person? Luckily, I'm very talkative. So then I started to talk about my family, my life, and this is how asking her questions and how is it for you? So I was very curious. And at one point, we knew each other so well on the private side that we could really work together and understanding each other. So it was really like a crack, and then I read about it, and I could really like see a bit more, like what I was experiencing was actually what was really in the culture. So this relationship building is something that matters for me probably even more. So even now being in a German culture environment, which may be less culture, less relationship focused, it's something that I'm still, researching, because I do believe if you know the person, it's easier. I mean, if you're on a human level, it's easier to communicate, it's easier to work together. So that's something that I definitely bring with me. The other thing is in the Chinese culture, and I read a lot of philosophy as well. I also went to after work philosophy classes because I'm very interested in philosophy. And you have this kind of passive but passive as a strength. And it's true that for us, in our like Western philosophy, is action is a strength. Passive is generally perceived as a weakness. And that's something that being able to kind of like accept what's coming in. So maybe a bit more of stoicism if we want to have a Western, equivalent. It's something that in China, people are very resilient. They have these strengths, that inner strengths, where they kind of know that a lot of things may come at them, but eventually it will pass. So, and this is what I hear nowadays, that COVID is over, but the economic situation is not great. A lot of friends still there and telling me that they are waiting, but when it will go back fast. So right now it's still a bit on the verge. It's not really great, but when it will come back, it will probably come back very, very fast.
Very interesting. So also on this this social aspect, when you talk about getting to know people, what is social life like? I mean, do you meet with people for a coffee, as we do here, or do you go out for dinners? And talk to me about the etiquettes of dinners, because I think we've all maybe heard the stories of slurping and spitting, and then you have Chinese food. We have a Chinese family, and with my background, our neighbors used to be our uncles, and they were Chinese. So, my Chinese uncle would always say, you can eat anything that flies and has legs except a table and an airplane. So the things I've eaten, I can't even tell you, but tell us about your food experience in China.
So I think, first of all, I am French. And French people, when it comes to food, are not so different than Chinese people. We also eat everything. And so we also eat very strange stuff. So I think from that perspective, we were kind of, alike with food. I think food is also so important for French people. It's also extremely important for Chinese people. So this is where you bond very easily, actually. Because French people, if you are at dinner with them, they will speak about food. If you do the same with Chinese people, they will do exactly the same. They will speak about food. So food is definitely the topic in people's life. So here it was easy for me to bond. Then if you think about etiquette, the French etiquette is way worse than the Chinese etiquette.
Is it really?
Yes.
Tell me.
Because actually in China, so slurping is more a Japanese thing, first of all. Oh. So slurping is not really something. So the Chinese etiquette, when it comes to food, it's more than if someone say, oh, let's go and have dinner together, very often it means that this person invite, meaning often that this person will pay. So that's something. If you are in a bit more like not, I mean, if it's your friends, then it's fine, that you will gonna split the bill. But if it's a bit more like, people that you're not completely familiar with and they will tell you, let's go, then they're gonna pay. And then you're like, no, I want to pay. So you have this ritual of when the bill comes, everybody fights, to pay. Someone is pretending to go to the bathroom and then take the bill to pay. So this fight is very funny in China. So you always have this, no, I can pay. No, it's me. So that's quite funny. So that's one of the etiquette, if we can say that. Then all the food comes together. So basically you have generally one person ordering and everything is in the middle, and then you're going to share. So it's not like I'm having my own meal, because if you do that, you're perceived as a bit like, greedy or, not welcome and not wanted to share with others. So it's basically everything in the middle and you share. There is no...
And one person orders.
Generally one person order, but you can still say, hey, I would love to have this, I would love to have that. But generally you have one person taking charge of. So that's a bit more, the rule. But you can still, drop stuff, say, oh, I would love to have that as well. So it's kind of like communitary already.
Right.
And you don't have, like salty first, sweets at the end. So there is no order. So if you order something sweet, it may happen at first or at the same time of everything. So this is something that I learned quite fast, that if I want to have my like French mindset of I want a dessert, let's order the dessert after I finish eating. Because if I order it from the start, it may happen. And if it's an ice cream, you may want to eat your ice cream before your beef, unfortunately. So that's some kind of like rules, that you have to learn. Then you have the placement, but that's more in a working environment. So who sits who? So basically, the most important person is in front of the door, and the least important has a back at the door. And then you have right and left, so you start basically like this. So that's in more like work environment. With friends is like come as you are. So that's another etiquette. But beside that, you don't really have etiquette. You know, beside that, you eat, your napkin, you know, can be completely dirty. You don't care. It's fine. So it's quite chill. Then it's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Another thing that surprised me a lot, and at one point I happened to miss it, is the waiter. You have to wait. You have not to wait. Sorry, you have to call the waiter. So basically, the waiter are always laughing, or other, you know, Chinese people are laughing at foreigner when they arrive, because they are, you know, bravely sitting and waiting. And waiting and waiting. You can wait really a long time, because basically the rule in China is you shout at the waiter and then he comes. So at first I found it extremely rude. I was like, this is so rude. People are screaming at waiters. So this is really like not well educated. But then you learn that actually it's not rude. It's convenient for the waiter, because the waiter doesn't have to look, oh, is someone, you know, wanted to catch my attention? Yeah. No, it's actually, he heard his name, so then he's coming. So, and now I have to say that I miss that, because when I wait and wait and wait in a restaurant, I really miss this fouillard. So.
Love that.
That is so
Love
good.
that.
Any favorite dishes? Like, is there some dish that you picked up while you were there? Like, oh my gosh, I missed that now that I'm here.
It's a very, very difficult question, because the food is so amazing there. So basically, I miss everything. I started, you know, to cook myself Chinese, because I could not find the Chinese, you know, like dishes that I really loved. So I also tried all Chinese restaurants in Berlin. So if you want to know what's the best Chinese restaurants in Berlin, you can ask me, because I'm testing all of them. And I'm really, you know, very picky, because this is where, speaking of integration, I discuss sometimes with colleagues, and I'm like, yeah, you know, coming from China and from Beijing, especially, I like the northeast part of China, which means salty food. I don't like the south part, which is too sweet for my taste. So, and I have a Chinese colleague who is from the south, and she's always laughing. She's like, yeah, you are the real Beijinger.
Okay, but then least favorite dish.
The least favorite would be the chou tofu, which is stinky tofu. I could not try it. I mean, the smell
was too strong.
It's
even stronger than cheese.
Oh,
Cécile.
way stronger. No, it's honestly, it's probably the worst smell I ever, you know, smelled. And the first time it was on the street, and I didn't know what it was. And I was like visiting a street, and I was like, it's strange. Everything smells in that street. So, and my husband was also like, yeah, it's a weird city. It smells really in this city, but something very strange. And we could not see what it was until we finally realized it was a stinky tofu. Yeah, no, apparently it's delicious, but yeah, that's something I did not manage. I managed chicken feet, but I did not manage stinky tofu.
Yeah. I love that. Cécile, tell me, we could go like on and on and on, but I have maybe like one of the last question, because I think that people watching, I mean, you are inspiring them so much, and you know, you remind me of my own trip like to China, and I loved it. I loved everything about it, and to be honest with you, like Beijing was my highlight. But to anyone willing to go to China or to immerse in the Chinese culture, what would be like your advice? Or someone planning to China, what would be like your advice to make the best out of this experience?
I think it's probably to know that it's not going to be easy, in the sense that everything is different. So if you come up with you need to come up with this open mindset, and with time. Especially if you travel, you need to know that some things will work perfectly well, but some other things you don't know how it will work. So you need to basically have the time, and you should not have also like, you know, when Asian people go to Europe and they do Europe in 10 days. So No, don't do that. Focus. So I would really say focus really on like one, two city or one province where you can really deep down on it, but don't try to do too many things because it's a continent. I mean, I've been to the south, I've been to the west, I've been to the north or the center. It's always different. So I think that's very having the scope of the country, knowing that you need to kind of like everything will be different, and try to have WeChat and WeChat Pay on your phone. That's going to help your life.
That's true.
That's very important because for example, taxi nowadays in China don't cost much, but if you try to hail a taxi on the street, it's mission impossible because everything works with the app. So it's better to have the app.
Maybe also a practical question, because how do you, when you go to China and you don't speak the language as a tourist, what's the tip? Still install WeChat? Or are there any like translation apps that we need, or what's the deal?
So still WeChat, because with WeChat, with WeChat you can also translate. So you have also a translator integrated. Otherwise, any kind of translation app is also great, and it will help you a lot. And something very, very important: Google does not work in China. So you need to have Apple Map, for example. Apple Map works pretty well, and then Apple Map is in your own language. So that's important. And all the apps you need, if you have an Android phone, download it before going there, because as soon as you land, you're out, except if you have a VPN.
Wow.
So that's a bit of preparation.
Very cool tips.
That's a bit of preparation.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like we have so many more questions, but at some point, I guess we have to end our conversation. But the one thing I would say is, since you are where are you in Germany? Are you in Berlin?
Yes.
Oh, Sandrine, I already feel that we need to plan a visit to Berlin, and then you bring us to the best Chinese restaurant that there is.
That's a deal.
And then we'll do part 2 of this show. We'll do part 2 around the table, because I now feel so inspired to experience more from a food perspective. I mean, food brings people together. Let's be honest about it.
Yes.
So let's talk some more over a nice dish in Berlin. And then we continue our conversations. But for today, I was going to say, Cécile, thanks so much for sharing all your insights.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Cécile. I mean, we just want like now to book our tickets to Shanghai. So thanks a lot for all the inspiration.
No, to Beijing.
To Beijing. I mean, both of them, because they are really fascinating. But that's true. Like Beijing they're super different, but super, super nice. Thanks a lot for everything. Wish you a lovely day. And for the people watching us, see you next time in our next guest. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.